around. There we are. That's me. That's my email address. And I've got Manjusha Gangadharan with me from Geyser Data. Hi, Manjusha.
Hi, David. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. It's further along in the day than it is for you. So I think you've got the early bird getting the worm situation on your side. So thanks for joining us, and thanks for getting up so early. For the mostly European audience, so between us, we're going to talk to you today about these two products. We're recording this session, so everybody, including those that registered, will get a link to a YouTube version of this webinar. And we've got a question and answer session scheduled in at the end. So please, if anything is occurring to you that we're not telling you about, put a question in and we'll answer all of those questions at the end. So a nice simple format today. I'm going to introduce you to Archiware P5 software for those that have joined us that are not familiar with it. Manjusha is going to take us through the Geyser Data product service as well. And then we're going to give you a live demo of the administration panel for the Geyser Data storage, and then I'm going to archive some files there so that you can see exactly how it works, and we'll recover some stuff back as well. And then we'll take your questions. We'll give you the answers, we'll take your questions. So let's begin with a little overview of Archiware P5, shall we? So Archiware P5, it's a software product from Germany, and it breaks down into 3 modules. Most people would be using P5 Archive to access cold storage like Geyser Data, but you could also do a backup to Geyser Data as well. So the 3 products are broadly data management. So we have P5 Backup, which is everybody knows what a backup is. It's a disaster recovery tool. It can write to LTO tape or cloud storage. Then we have P5 Archive, which is a different proposition to backup because we're looking to generally to move customers' data to what we would class as cold storage, which again could be either LTO or it could be a cloud storage like Amazon AWS, or, which is what we're focusing on today, something more of a hybrid between tape and cloud, such as Geyser Data, which is what you'll be seeing in a moment. So P5 Archive is often used by our customers to archive media files, large files that need to be kept indefinitely. And so we have a workflow for moving data into cold storage and then tracking it as it goes there so you can find it easily later. And then the third piece of our proposition is P5 Synchronize, which is a cloning tool which can clone files and folders between hosts within your infrastructure, and also can clone files and folders directly to a cloud object store bucket. So you could use that again with Geyser Data just to replicate a folder structure full of files directly into their cloud storage without the indexing side that occurs when we're using P5 Archive. So our customers often need to be educated a little bit in that a backup is a disaster recovery tool where you're copying all of your data on a daily basis so that you can survive some kind of disaster or data loss. Whereas Archive, although both might use cloud storage, Archive is entirely different. It's using that cloud storage like an extension of your on-prem storage at a lower cost, where you might put data that you don't need immediate access to, but at the same time you need to retain that data in some kind of a safe way. So customers often use LTO tape or cloud, and now we have this hybrid solution, which is a really interesting way to go. So simple schematic. On the left, we've got your on-prem storage that you might want to migrate to the Geyser Data service. On the right-hand side, whilst doing this, we're indexing and making a searchable interface through which you can look at all of the files that you've archived. And all of this stuff is occurring in the browser. So the whole product is managed using a web browser that's pointed to the host where P5 is running. And we are providing a web admin interface that looks like this. So this is an example of us having archived a load of CCTV AVI video files, just as an example. And when you've archived these files and put them in this cloud storage and remove them from your on-prem storage, you'll be able to browse a directory structure that looks the same as it did when it was on-prem shared storage, within a folder, you'll be able to see the files that existed in that folder, along with thumbnails and even a playable proxy of a media file, so that whilst you're in this index, although all this data has been migrated to the cold cloud storage, you can still search and see and identify which files you have, and then make a selection of files that you might want to recover back on-prem because you're repurposing a project or just need to have access to all the files. So this interface also allows a search, so you can either browse because you know what your folder and file structures look like, or you can search for a folder or a file or against metadata to identify what it is that you want to recover back to your live storage. As well as the cloud storage, we have very complete LTO tape support. So if you want to run on-prem LTO, then you can do that, and we'll support all the different vendors' products, single drives, and so on. Or you can outsource that and access the tape library in the cloud through this hybrid solution, which is what Geyser Data is. So that's my little intro earlier. You'll see the product in action in a moment, but and now over to you, to Manjusha, to show us what Geyser Data is all about. And I apologize, I keep mispronouncing Geyser Data, so you just
that's all right. I'll forgive you, and I'll make sure I pronounce Archiware well. So very quickly, what Geyser Data is, it's a cold data cloud. If I were to simplify it, it's tape as a service. We have enterprise-grade tape at the back end, and we provide a cloud interface to be able to manage the data to tape. Our customers typically use us for backup and archival, and we also have some interesting customers using us as a transitory layer. And what I mean by that is these days with AI workloads, you have a lot of models that you need to train, but you also have a tremendous amount of data that you want to keep somewhere temporarily without retention penalties, for example, when you try to retrieve the data. So we do find quite a few AI use cases where Geyser Data is used in a very smart way. Now, what makes us different? We have zero egress fees, zero retention penalties, zero API call fees. So on an invoice that you might receive from us, we are literally a single line item for storage. We are cloud native, like I said, we are S3 and Glacier S3 compatible. One of the big differences between us and any of the hyperscalers is that we dedicate tapes per customer. So if you were to sign up with us for storage, the media that we allocate to you is only allocated to you. So one tape will contain data only for that customer. There are no shared silos. So how does that make a difference? Now, because they are dedicated tapes, it is the time to first byte is much faster. We do not have a situation where we're trying to pull your data, which has been sharded across multiple tapes, bring it together, and then have the time to put it together and then present it to you. All of those tapes remain in the tape library. They're not vaulted. So the robotic arm within the cube is able to pull your tape and present it to you fairly quickly. We have seen customers be able to access their data within minutes rather than hours or days. And because of this dedicated tapes infrastructure, we're also able to air gap the data. And that's something that no other cloud provider can offer you. And what we do is that tape is physically unmounted from the drive, and this can be done through the console. And when you want to un-air gap it, you can go to the console, type in the password and the 2FA, and then the tape is mounted back in the drive. So it's that added level of protection. And because we are S3 and Glacier S3 compatible, it works seamlessly with any application that is S3 and Glacier S3 compatible. We can move to the next slide.
There we go.
Based on this, in summary, we offer best of both worlds. On one hand, you have the on-prem library where you have dedicated private tapes, free egress, and you have control over the on-prem library. But what's missing there is possibly a multi-tenant kind of a situation, pay-per-usage. Managing on-prem tape libraries can be tricky, and it's not as a service. Now, on the hyperscaler side, we've just put Amazon Glacier there as an illustrative example. You don't have dedicated media. You do not have free egress API calls. We have the option of sending the tapes to you if you want the tapes. Now, they may not be readable in any tape drive, but we can send the tapes to you. And if you want to rehydrate the data, you can send it back to us and we put it back in the cube. Or we can even help you with a utility that'll help you read your tapes. No hyperscaler can provide air gap functionality. After this presentation, this deck will be shared with you, so you'll be able to see the advantages that we offer between an on-prem library and a cloud storage, a typical cloud storage. We can move to the next slide.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think the free egress and free API calls is something that people don't appreciate the value of unless they've had to recover a large amount of data from a service like Glacier, where the per terabyte month cost is low. But I don't think, I think Glacier has a 6-month, 180-day minimum retention period, which means you'll pay for that period of time.
Yes, that's right. For the deep archive, they have a 180-day retention period. And the Glacier S3 APIs tend to be almost 10 times more expensive than the typical S3 API. So you do get charged a premium when you try to retrieve your data or do anything with your data.
It's a balance between offering the headline low cost per terabyte byte, like 99 cents, I think, at the cheapest point, but the cost comes back in other areas when it comes to long-term retention being forced and so on. So there's no minimum retention with Geyser Data?
No, there isn't. No.
Okay. Perfect. I'll just take you to the next slide.
Yes, please. So, like I said, access any tool, zero lock-in. Now, what you get is an S3, Glacier S3 compatible interface, dedicated tapes per customer, automated lifecycle policies. You can use any application that has lifecycle policies, have it integrated with Geyser, set it and forget it. At the back end, how it works is right now our colo partner is Digital Realty. We have a data center in LA, and by March, we'll have a data center operational out of London. Our tapes are from Spectralogic, so we have the cube from Spectralogic. And in a bit, when we show the demo, you'll see the control plane that kind of manages all of the verification, the retrieval, and the indexing. And we also have something called Cloud Sync, and this is meant for hybrid cloud workflows. What it does is it will listen for a bucket that you have allocated within your cloud storage, say it is AWS or Wasabi or OCI. And anytime there is a change in that bucket, it'll automatically crawl through that bucket and replicate the changes in Geyser Data. Now, if you delete something there, we don't replicate that. But if you add something, make changes, it'll automatically sync it to Geyser Data.
So you can act as an S3 client connecting to an other cloud bucket, and then watch that bucket for changes and take a copy of that into your storage.
That's
So
correct.
even if a customer has a workflow already using AWS, Wasabi, Backblaze, and so on, they could add you on for a second low-cost copy of the data.
That's absolutely right.
Understand. Okay, well, together, let's just have a look at the Geyser Data. I do apologize. The admin interface. So I have a demo account here that I've been using for testing with P5. And so at the top here, you can see we have buckets. And I have these 3 buckets created. So the interface is very familiar to anybody who has set up some cloud storage, e.g. buckets, with one of the other vendors. You basically, you'll create access keys. So there's a section here where you can generate new key pairs. So you have a key, and then there's a secret part. You create that and make sure you have a copy of it. And then you can use any S3 client software, including P5, to access storage via buckets. But what you also have with Geyser Data is tape collections. So a tape collection, if I go to create a new one, talk a little bit for me about what a tape collection is, Manjusha.
So you think of it as an organization construct. You can have several buckets under a tape collection. It essentially optimizes the tapes so that you're not, let's say, wasting tapes across several buckets. So you can organize your data based on workloads, based on dates, and so on. You can create a tape collection, and under that you'll have several buckets. It's basically a logical way of organizing your data.
So it's a grouping of tapes. So if I was happy just to have all of my data across several buckets on one set of tapes, and I don't mind that the data is mixed, then I could use a single tape collection. But if I wanted to keep my different clients' data on entirely different sets, then I might do that. But then I might risk having more than one partially filled tape instead of one partially filled tape, I guess is the difference, isn't it?
One of the use cases that we see, especially in media and entertainment, is there are our customers who maintain tape collections based on the show or based on that particular project, right? So project 1 has one tape collection and it has several buckets under it and so on. So
yeah, okay. And you can, I'm noticing here that when you create the tape collection, you can choose whether or not you want to have your data replicated across 2 tapes so that there's always redundancy. So that means that your data isn't being committed to a single LTO tape, which will be a single, potentially a single point of failure, which is something that we should always try and avoid. So by doing a dual copy, it's always on 2 tapes. So that becomes that limitation. And then if I go to the buckets, sorry.
Just one point I wanted to make there, when you create the tape collection and you say, and at that time you choose, say, single copy or dual copy, one thing to keep in mind is, once you do it that way, you can't go back and then change it from single to dual, right? So it will, once you create the tape collection, the parameters that you've chosen to create the tape collection would remain.
Yes, understand. And having just clicked into one of the tape collections here, we can see at the bottom, it actually shows me the barcode, I think, from this LTO-9 tape, which is the tape which has been written so far with my tests, because I haven't written a lot of data, so I haven't gone beyond a single tape. And then down here, it shows me the buckets that are being stored on this tape collection, one of which is this P5 webinar bucket. And if I click into that one, you can see the information, including the endpoint here, which is needed to connect to the service, and then the bucket name, which is the stated name plus a GUID, which is what you put into your S3 client software to connect up. And there's even the ability to do a browse in the bucket here. And I've already archived some P5 data, and everything when you're archiving with P5, we are we're bundling files together, small files into larger objects to optimize the way that we're interacting with the cloud storage. So we have our own folder structure where we're storing our container kind of blobs of data, and everything lives under this config folder. So the Geyser Data configuration is really quite simple. You sign up, you create at least one tape collection, you create your access credentials, at least one bucket, and then you can start to send data over there. So let's switch tabs here and go to our P5 installation. So this is the P5 web admin interface. So this is the second web interface that we've seen on this webinar. And I'm just going to focus in on the archive tab here because it's archiving that I'm going to show. And I think archiving is the best fit within our product for using the Geyser Data storage. And then I have various config options down the left-hand side. So I'm going to show you a couple of things. The first one is under storage. This is where I can set up my tape storage, but also my cloud storage. And I have the Geyser Data configured here. And we're basically treating it as a generic S3 service as opposed to one of the incumbent cloud vendors. And then we're basically just plumbing in the information that you could see when we were in the admin panel, which includes the bucket name, those credentials, and the endpoint. And then once all that's done, you can test that within P5, and our P5 server will make a connection up to the Geyser server, and everything looks good. And then from there, you would create an archive workflow. And here's one that I made earlier. And so the target storage is the Geyser Data archive. And then the important thing that we do with P5 is we have what's called an index, which you'll see in a moment. And that index can be configured to capture previews. In this case, we're using some open source tools, ImageMagick and FFmpeg, to make thumbnails and small proxies of any media files that you're archiving. So once the archive plan is set up like that, you can go and browse your file systems directly within this web interface and archive stuff. So if I wanted to, for example, archive this images new folder, I could add that to a basket where I'm going to collect things that I want to archive. So I could maybe add the zip file in there as well. And once I'm happy that these are the things that I want to archive, I would click the archive button, make sure that I've got this pointing to my Geyser Data storage, start the job, and then directly within our web interface, you can see us uploading some objects that contain that data to the Geyser Data storage, and you'll be able to see how fast it's going. You can fine tune us to bring up multiple copy streams to get more speed, to better use your WAN connection. And then you can see here we're now generating the previews so that we have something to show within our index. So our index is where you go when you want to restore something from the storage. So we would simply go to our sample data here, and you can see this is the folder that we just archived today, the 26th of February. And each folder that's been archived, if I go into this CCTV folder, we'll have a list of files within that folder that you can see scrolling here. And then we have thumbnails, and we have a playable proxy, in this case of just the first 20 seconds of these surveillance movies that we've archived. So from here, I could make a selection of specific files that I wanted to archive. I could maybe do a search for file names that contain a word, which is not working, and I'm not sure why. Name contains string. That's better. So you can see all of these file names have bus in them. We'll match the search, turn the search off. Or if I wanted to look at those files that we just archived, then those are also available in these folders here. And then if I want to restore something, so if I go back to the surveillance stuff, if I stick some of these in a restore basket here that I want to recover, and then I can ask P5 to simply restore these back either to the original location, or I can browse my storage and choose a restore directory like this one. And then P5 will tell me how many files we're restoring, how big they are, And when it comes to the Geyser Data storage, it's always online. So it may take a few minutes for the tapes to be loaded at the other end and streaming the data back, but it doesn't take very long. So there's never a long wait. So you can see here it says pulling containers. So that means we're downloading. We're requesting download of the container files that we created and uploaded to the Geyser storage. So we'll just wait. And on the Geyser side, their tape library will be recovering those back to the disk storage, to the cache, and then we'll be able to download them from there. So in fact, I think we might already be downloading something, so that will happen rather quickly. I think your tape library is one of these sort of hyperscaler ones, Manjusha, that moves the tapes around at a pretty alarming rate that I've seen at trade shows.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, I think we conclude our live demo. Was there anything that you wanted to add to that I didn't already mention, Manjusha?
I think perhaps around the pricing, right? And while the technical flow and the data path is interesting, one of the things that people find most interesting about Geyser Data is the simplicity of our pricing. And if you were to if you're working with a partner, a reseller or so, they will essentially share the pricing with you, but our suggested end user pricing ranges from $1.55 per terabyte per month to $1.85 per terabyte per month, depending on the location. And while you did the demo, there were two little boxes there which said encryption and compression. So if you needed additional encryption, you can select that option, and then we would charge you a nominal fee of the suggested end user pricing there is 33 cents per terabyte per month. And if you need additional compression, that's also 33 cents per terabyte per month. We have found that customers in the media and entertainment space don't find much value with compression because media files don't compress all that well. There's not that much of a gain. And we also have customers who encrypt their data before they send it to us. So both of these features are completely optional. But I wanted to mention that there is a price point associated with both of them.
Yeah, absolutely true that in our experience, where most of our customers are archiving media files, there's no compression on MPEG compressed media files, whether it's video or audio. When the capacity of a tape is 18 terabytes, customers tend to get 18 terabytes and don't have any other expectations. If you're archiving lots of database files and Excel and Word documents, then things will be different. But
yes, you get quite a bit of mileage from the compression, and so the savings, the price point kind of offsets those savings. You're able to get better savings even though you're paying that little extra for the compression.
Yeah. Okay, so that wraps up our demo and our slides. I hope everybody found that interesting. I hope we were able to put across the fundamental differences between the cloud storage that you may be familiar with and a hybrid such as this, where Geyser are being clear that this is LTO tape that's being used for the cold storage, which the comparably priced storage from other cloud vendors has to be using LTO tape for their storage, because there's no way that they could achieve the only way that you can achieve this kind of cost per terabyte is in the present day by using tape. In 10 years that might be different. There might be other technologies around. There has been optical storage, which was also a low cost storage, which was good for archiving because it has a good shelf life. But optical is gone. There are no vendors making optical storage anymore. We have tape currently. There's holographic stuff that might come along, And if it does, I'm sure you guys will be happy to support that once it's
Yes.
competing favourably with tape. But for the time being, it's tape. So I'm hoping that we might get some questions. Don't see anything in the questions panel so far, but if anybody's got any questions in our audience, then please type something in. Otherwise, we might need to wrap up. I guess we did such a good job explaining it so clearly that nobody has any further questions. So,
David, do you want to share those 2 slides where people can get a trial version of our solutions?
Yes, good point. So let's just drop down past the demo slide. So just for everybody's reference, archiware.com/download P5 will get you a download package and a trial key for either 5 or 30 days. 5 days for not giving any details, 30 days if you give us an email address. So this is fully functional. And then at the same time, you can go to console Geyser Data /register to get a 2-week free trial of the cloud storage. And then if you get both, you can do exactly as you just saw and be archiving data to the cloud storage and see how you like it. So I'm just going to check again to see if anybody asked a question. So Erica just asked, I just want to know if the price will change in Europe with the opening of the London office.
That's why I mentioned the range. So in the US, the pricing is $1.55 per terabyte per month. And that's the suggested end user pricing. You would get more accurate pricing from the partner that you're working with. And in London, we expect that range to hit $1.85 per terabyte per month or so. So that's why I mentioned that range, Erica. I hope that answered your question.
Thanks for the question, Erica. Send us a follow-up if there's anything else that you wanted to know. There's a question here from Don, who's asking what the purchase model is for Archiware P5. So Don, it's not a subscription. So you buy the software outright. So you buy the software. Software runs on Windows, Linux, Mac OS. It runs directly on QNAPs and Synologies and Netgear NAS systems. So you can install us on any one of those hosts or a collection of hosts. You own the software forever. The software comes with a year of maintenance, which is basically software updates and tech support. So you get that for a year. And then once that year's up, you can give some more money to the reseller partner and extend that year by year so that you've always got access to latest versions of the software. But yes, not a subscription model, so you're not incumbent to keep paying to keep access to your data. Okay. Well, I think that just about wraps things up for our webinar, Manjusha. So thanks ever so much for joining me.
Thank you, David.
Like we said, we'll send everybody the slide deck and a recording. And thanks for the kind messages, the thanks that are coming in via the questions panel. So yeah, we'll see you in the next webinar. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.